Well, hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Sally, and this is Sally Stitches and today's episode is Sally Stitches and Hits the Town, because we are back to school. We've been back to school for 2 weeks now, and it's really changed kind of my daily routine. I am able to get out and about, and I'm enjoying it. And so I thought I would share some of my favorite places to stitch that are not this cozy, crafty corner that I have here at home. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sally. I live in Michigan, and I'm going to do a very Michigan thing and show you on my hand where in the Lower Peninsula I am. I'm in a little town called Midland, and I like to cross stitch. There are other hobbies I like too, though. I like to cook. I like to knit and crochet. I like to collect vintage items, like vintage kitchenware items, and a lot of things. And so I use this channel to kind of share my adventures. So it's been about 2 weeks since I last posted, and let's go ahead and just get started right away with the cross stitch. So for the first time since I started this channel, I do not have a finished item, but I have a very, very, very close to finished items to show you, and we'll start with that. So what I have to show you is this. Isn't it cute? This is Season's Greetings from the Fox family. The pattern is by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, and I finished it with a little pom-pom trim, and then the backing here. Now you might notice this backing is very, very color coordinating with this, and that is because this was a kit I purchased last year at the Jingle Ball, which is hosted by Stephanie of Lindy Stitches. And so they sent out the fabric, and we could use our own floss, but they had 3 colorways that you could choose from. And the finishing kit came with the trim and the cool coordinating fabric, and then the little mounting boards here. So this one is finished, but I also stitched the other 2 colorways, and I don't have them 100% finished, which is why I'm not calling this an FFO yet. Here are the other 2 colorways. The one I showed you is the winter colorway, and then this is the vintage colorway, and this is the cozy colorway. Let's see if I can do all 3 at once. Aren't they pretty? So I have these laced on the boards, and then I also have the backing boards for both of them, but I don't have them fully finished yet. What I'm doing to finish these is I am sandwiching them together like this, so front and back together, and then I'm putting the pom-pom trim in between, and then I'm using a needle and some nylon thread, and I'm sewing through all 3 layers by hand all the way around to finish them. And so it's just a matter of getting it done, but I have been like a little butterfly distracted and I've just like been flitting from project to project. So not quite yet, but very soon I'll have an FFO for that. So I brought my iPad with me, so I have notes here, so give me a second. Okay, let's start with my next thing, which is a new start that I started, and that is this right here. This is a pattern by the Artsy Housewife. It's called Coffee and Eggs, and I don't have any eggs yet, but you can see I have the start of a little coffee pot with a flower bouquet growing out of it. I'm stitching this with the called for colors, which are Classic Colorworks and then a couple DMCs, but aren't they pretty? Just very nice earth tones, kind of autumnal, I'd say. And the fabric I chose for this is a 40 count fabric, and it's called Moonstone by Fiber on a Whim. I'm stitching this over 2 threads, so 20 stitches per inch. And I'm using 2 strands of thread or floss, which maybe was a mistake, but I'm gonna go with it. I actually really like how the stitches are popping. They're just maybe a little difficult to keep from twisting just because the fabric count is so small. I use a hoop to stitch my projects. I took it off so I could show you here, but this is the needle minder I chose to use with it. This is a Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery needle minder, and it's like Red Riding Hood themed. And it's one of my favorite needle minders, and it's because it's round. I like the round needle minders the best. I find that they don't catch like loose strands of floss, and I'm really happy with, you know, this project and how it's turned out. I'm keeping the project in this bag that my friend Shelly, who is Antique Needleworkers, gave me at StitchCon, and I really, really think it's beautiful. I think it's made out of a vintage quilt or a table runner that she put together. This was a super thoughtful gift, and I just really like it, and I think about Shelly every time I open it up to use it. Shelly, by the way, just released some patterns. She has them, I think, for sale through her, I think she has an Etsy shop. I'll have to check that, and I'll get a link and I'll put it, you know, in the description here. But I know she definitely sells them through Keepsakes, the cross stitch shop that's her local needlework shop, because Shelly lives in Ohio, pretty close to the StitchCon place. Anyway, that's my new start here. So the other project that I worked on, probably more than any other project, is an older work in progress that I got a lot of progress in, and that is this right here. This is Greetings from the National Parks by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. And when I picked this up recently, I just had this one right here. This is Grand Teton National Park, and then a little bit of a start on this block here. But when I started this fabric, I was really concerned about running out of space on this side. And so I went ahead and I worked on these panels this time. I completed the Arches National Park, and then I also completed this one in the top, which is Yosemite, I think, right? Good thing I labeled it Yosemite. And then this week I just added this top border. So we're getting a sense on how big this piece is. I just measured it, and it is about 7 inches on the dot, you know, wide here, and then I'm expecting it to maybe be about 9 inches long. This is on 28 count fabric with the called for DMC threads. The name of the fabric is Spice by Picture This Plus. And I have some fun plans for this. If it works out, I'm gonna have to get some more information. But there's a stitch along that's been hosted by Hands On Design, Chantel's 141 Design Company, and Nicole Spohr here on Flosstube for a hands-on design pattern called Hygge. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. They actually talked a lot about it. I'll see if I can put a picture of the pattern here. But one thing that's really cool is that it Chantel's 141 designed a special finishing frame for the Hygge pattern, and I actually think that this might be really close to the same dimensions. I will confirm that, but if it is, then what I might do is I might kind of finish that picture frame piece so that I can swap out the little inside piece that you know, is the cross-stitched piece. And that would be fun because I like to have seasonal decor pieces, and I like it when I can swap things out really easily. Now, have I stitched the Hygge, Sal? No, I did buy the pattern. The pattern's only available until the 31st, so get on that if you're watching this before, you know, the end of the month. But I definitely think that I will. This has been the year of hands-on design patterns for me. I started last year with the Autumn Folk sampler that I did at the 141 Pep Rally retreat I went to last year, and I've stitched several. I've stitched all of the other folks, and then I just have a lot kitted up that I want to do. One that I want to do is called Bottle Brush Tree Farm, and I have a really cute idea for it involving bottle brush mini trees. So yep, stay tuned on that. Let me put this away real quickly. I have this in a project bag that my friend Erica, a girl called Erica Stitches, made. It has all these different like patterned collars on it, kind of. I like it. And then also the needle minder I have on this is another Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery needle minder, and it's cute. It's national parks themed. So it's fun to have fun things to play with, right? So I need a new word for the word fun. I use it like as my catch-all for everything. I guess I'm just having too much fun around here. So the next pattern I have that I wanted to update you on is a stitch along I've been working on. And this is 324 by Works by ABC. And I've actually worked just 2 or 3 squares ahead. I'm doing one motif a day, regardless of whether it's just one of these little 5x5 squares or if it's one of the lace motifs. But I was really close to the end of this row here, and so I finished it like 2 days ahead of time because the end of this row actually marks a different milestone, and that is the end of my reds box. I am firmly moving into the purples, and then from the purples into the blues. And so the next color that I'm going to use is 550. And then I'm going to probably start working through this line and then into these purpley dark blues and then onto the rest of the rainbow. It's very fun for me. This is my DMC master set. I have all like 485-ish, 500-ish floss colors here. And I have them organized in these art bin boxes. And I have them organized so they match the DMC color card. And so they're color themed. And I like that. Long time ago, I wanted to get into cross stitch designing. And so I had a fortuitous like 30% off everything friends and family coupon, and I splurged and I got all the flosses, and it's really fun to be able to use them whenever I need something. And yeah, so I'm excited to get into that next box. I have a really cute project bag I keep this in. This is by Michelle Lee Quilts, and I got this last year at a retreat. It's like vintage prints and vintage ladies. Reminds me of like old vintage sewing patterns, like simplicity patterns. The other thing I'm doing with this pattern is because there are so many different colors, 324 of them, I'm collecting all of the like leftover threads and I'm keeping them in this jar. So I'll open it up. I got this jar at StitchCon and you can see it is very red. It's got this little Ohio thing because that's where StitchCon is. I'm in Michigan and we're supposed to be enemies. So, hey, did you know that Ohio and Michigan went to war with each other back in the day? Ohio, I believe, was a state and it invaded some Michigan territory. Michigan territory at that time kind of included, you know, the state of Michigan as we have it now, and then into Wisconsin and Minnesota. And the Ohio people ended up invading the land where Toledo is now. We call that the Toledo Strip. And the federal government had to get involved. And what they did was they awarded the Toledo Strip to Ohio because they thought that was going to be a really important port town because it was like right at the terminus of the Great Lakes. And then they awarded the state of Michigan the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And then we also got our statehood at that time and became a state instead of a territory. I just thought that was cool, but that explains a little bit about why there's that little enmity between Michigan and Ohio. It's because we got beef over Toledo. So I think we got a good deal though. And I think they probably got a good deal too. So let's see. The other project I've been working on, I can't show you, but I can give you a little hinty hint. And I'm gonna be honest, I've been struggling with this. And I think the reason I'm struggling with it is because it's a deadline project. This is pre-stitching for the retreat I'm going to in about 3 weeks, kind of toward the end of September. And so the idea is we stitch these 3 little designs that are made by Stitching by the Housewives. And then we're going to finish them at the retreat. And so I have one of the designs finished. I am like halfway through a second one, and then I haven't started the third one. And the issue I'm having is the fabric that was provided in the kit, because they sent us the fabric and the flosses. We're not allowed to show the pattern, you know, until probably after the retreat, but I can show you the flosses. They are all Classic Colorworks flosses, very pretty. And then I'll show you the blank fabric, and you can maybe see a little bit, like I have the design facing the other way, but it's a little round design and you can see it's probably about that big. But the issue I have with these fabric pieces is they have been stiffened somehow. Like they still have sizing in them. This is a 28 count even weave, but you can see it is very rigid. A lot of other people are stitching these using those magnetic frames because you definitely get big hoop bumps. You know, you can fold it and it's creased now. I'll have to iron it. I've also noticed when I do press these, when I'm finishing one of these, that the fabric shrinks a little bit. It does bounce back, and it's for like an ornament, so it's not like a big deal. But I typically, when I stitch with a sewing motion. So I start on the top of the piece, and then what I'm doing is I'm dipping my needle in and then back out in one motion, and then pulling the thread. So when I use hoops, I actually don't tension my thread very strongly or tension my fabric very strongly, because I need to have a little bit of wiggle room so I can navigate that needle down and then up again. But with this, because this fabric is so stiff, it's almost like working with perforated paper, where I have to do like up and then down, pull it through, up and then down. And so it's taking twice as long. And that is why I think it's feeling like it's a little bit of a slog, even though I do think that most of these pieces are probably only about 300, 400 stitches max. I did not put this pattern into Markup R-XP because of how small it is. Oh, speaking of Markup R-XP, I am really enjoying it. I have found that this might be my new hobby. I'm not going to do like a whole like Sally Stitches and tells you all about Markup R-XP pattern or, you know, projects, but I will tell you a little bit about it. So Markup R-XP is a pattern, like, how would you describe it? It's like a pattern like tracking software. It's an app that's available for iOS. There's a similar app called Pattern Keeper that is not available. And I know some people really, really love Pattern Keeper enough that they've purchased like Android-based tablets just for that. But I already had an iPad, and so I gave Markup R-XP a try. It is available for free for like maybe like the first 4 or 5 patterns, and then they do kind of start asking you if you want to subscribe. The annual subscription for me was about $20 for the year, and I don't mind trying it for a year. And so I went ahead and I signed up for it. I have been really enjoying it because what I've been doing is I've been working on adding a lot of my works in progress into it, and also adding some of the projects that I've kitted up. And, you know, I've found some patterns that I just didn't expect to find. For one thing, the vast majority of all of my projects that I have kitted up or I'm working on are like 10,000 stitches or bigger, you know, kind of in that 10 to 15,000 stitch range. So no wonder I never feel like I finish anything. It's really hard for me to just be like focused on that one piece for all 10,000 of those stitches. And so I tend to be kind of multiple cross stitch pieces at the same time, multiple crafts at the same time. And so sometimes I have these periods where I am just working on everything and not feeling like I'm getting anywhere with anything. And I think that probably the large size count of it, you know, like the stitch count for these is probably contributing to that. I am really enjoying knowing though, like how far I've gotten into some of these pieces, like that 324 that I just showed you a couple minutes ago. I am just at 20% right now as we speak. And so that's fun. That's like a fifth of the way done. And that's cool because it's been about, you know, a fifth of a year since I started it. And so I'm on track. That's good. Coffee and eggs, I'm at about 15% done. Coffee and eggs is a smaller piece than I thought. It's only 10,000 stitches, and I was kind of guesstimating it was more like 15,000. But then I have other pieces that are a lot bigger than I thought. Like here's an example. I have, where did I put it here? I set all my stuff everywhere and it's a mess. So I have this piece. This is by Satsuma Street, and this is called The Animal House. And I don't have very much of it done, just about this much. And this is 2,000 stitches here. That's amazing. But also this pattern is 13,000 stitches. And so I actually posted about this on my Instagram, and my friend Allie Z was like, wow, I really wanted to stitch that, but now that I know it's that big, I might not. And I was like, oh, I didn't want to discourage you from stitching it, but yeah, I mean, maybe we do need to know our limits sometimes, right? And so it's helping me pick pieces. Like, instead of like maybe working on like a series of like very large pieces, maybe I want to alternate and work on something big and then small and big and then small. The other thing is, you know, some of these projects I'm very close to being done. Like, I showed a couple weeks ago, I was working on Night Walked Down by the Blue Flower. See if I can put a photo in, or I'll take a photo later. But I'm at 80% done with that, so I should finish that. That's still 3,000 stitches. That's a big piece. That's about 17,000 stitches. But I think that might be my next focus piece. I've really enjoyed the piece that I'm working on, and so I'll finish Greetings from the National Parks, and then I'll really focus on getting Night Walk Down done, because I have been working on it for probably a couple of years at this point. You know, the other thing that surprised me is that some of these pieces that I haven't started because I think they're really big are actually not that big. This is one. I bought this when it was released for Needlework Market back 2023. This is by Bendy Stitchy, and it's called 1844 Lady Man. It's a reproduction of an 1844 sampler. I'm quite the lady man, it says. This thing looks big. It's only 6,000 stitches. And so I should start it, especially since a lot of the stitches in this, especially in this bottom part, are half stitches. So that's like, I don't know, maybe closer to 4,000 stitches when you like are just counting like you know, half of a stitch. So anyway, just something to think of. I have really enjoyed it. You know, I actually also really enjoy the process of putting the projects in the Markup app. So this is what I have so far. I've got my 10 that I'm currently doing, and I've put in like 13. Now, it's a different process, you know, for using a PDF and then just uploading a PDF. And then also, if I have a paper pattern, then what I'm doing is I'm scanning it and making a PDF copy of it, and then I'm uploading it that way. Now, when you scan things in, there are things you have to do to adjust the grid so that the grid in the software matches the grid in reality, and then it doesn't ever pick up symbols, and so you have to manually kind of add a lot of the symbols, but that's kind of fun. It's like diamond painting, I would think. I've never diamond painted, but it's kind of like that action. So a lot of times I'm like just on my iPad, like do, you know, and that's kind of restful, because sometimes you don't want to get everything out, or you want to do something in bed, like while you're laying around right before you go to bed. And so I've been working on that. My goal is to get all of my larger works in progress and all of my larger kits in here. Now, something that is small that I think is going to maybe take like less than a week to do, I'm not going to put in here, because just the effort. It takes me, you know, maybe a half hour to a couple hours to add some of these pieces in. The longest one that I added in actually was a Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery piece, and it's called Once Upon a Time. And the reason it took so long, I'm going to open it, but I don't want to show you the pattern. What I want to show you is the full chart. There's a way to show you like a preview. So this is the design as a full chart. I'm sorry, that's very small. So when this got imported into Markup, even though this is a PDF, it's a PDF from like 2013 when the pattern was released, and it picked up all of the blank stitches as white. And so it told me that there were 50,000 stitches in this piece. And I was like, oh no, something's happened. So what I had to do is I had to manually go through and erase the stitches. When you go into erase mode, stitches that are unassigned a symbol are red, and so it's just a matter of kind of just wiping them out of the frame. But it took me a couple hours, and it turns out it's still a very big piece. It's got about 20,000 stitches, and you know, so I don't know if I'll ever work on that. I've started it, so I consider it a project that I've started, but when I started it, I made a big counting error, and I did a center start, and so it's going to affect the whole rest of the piece. And so I think that I'm going to either unpick it and restart it, or restart on a new piece of fabric. I haven't decided yet. So that is something that I'm really enjoying. I've really gotten into the Markup. And you know what? I did this very kind of this like organizing stuff with knitting a couple years ago. I used this website called Ravelry at the time, and Ravelry lets you import all your projects, but it also lets you keep track of all of your yarn stash. And it took me a couple weeks, but I just had like, you know, a bag of yarn at a time. I keep my yarn in Ziploc bags to kind of protect it from dust and insects and stuff. And like, yeah, I just did a bag at a time in putting all this yarn in. And once I got it done, it was really, really helpful. And I loved having it, you know, but the getting there was the process. And that's kind of what I'm going through with this. Getting there is the process. But once I have all of my current kits in, and once I have, you know, my current whips there, and then I've updated the whips, so I've like marked what I've actually already completed, then I think it's going to really help me. I love being able to know how productive I've been. Sometimes we have these really busy days where you're like, I got nothing done. But then when you like look back and you see like a physical record of what you have done, you're like, oh, I feel a lot better about my day now. So I actually started doing that a little bit with house cleaning too. What I started doing recently is something that I'm just calling kind of a room by room reset. And what I've done is I've just listed all of the rooms in my house, and then every morning I just maybe make like one thing in each room that I want to get done. And then at the end of the day, or like right before I pick up the kids from school, if I'm like, wow, I really frittered that day away, I can look back and I'm like, no, I got like half of my list done. And it also makes me feel like you know, keeping up with housework is way less overwhelming, you know, because I'm kind of hitting every room every day a little bit and then staying on top of it. So like a really good example is, you know, maybe in my bedroom, every day I want to make my bed. I've joined the Make My Bed Every Day club. We used to do it, and then like my son would like unmake it like by jumping around, and then we stopped doing it. But now he doesn't go into our bedroom, and so we can make it and it'll stay made until bedtime. And boy, it's nice to have your sheets all like nice and straightened and fresh feeling. And so, you know, I am enjoying that, and it's been going on for, you know, a couple weeks now, so it's good. So anyway, that was a big digression. I have some haul that I want to show you because I've got a couple kits that I'm excited about starting. But then also I had a giveaway last time, you know, to kind of celebrate winning a prize for a Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery piece I'd won, and I've drawn a name, and so I want to announce that too. So let me show you some things I got recently. First, I got a card from my friend Stacy Berman. She's Stacy B on Instagram. So I finished that bobbin mouse pattern last week, and we have a group text from StitchCon, and so I was like, oh yeah, I finished this. Thanks so much, Jen, for the spool, because my friend Jen had given me the spool that I put Bobbin the mouse on. And I asked them if they had the pattern, because we all received spools, and so maybe other people. And most of the other people in the group had purchased the pattern, except Stacy hadn't. And so I ended up sending Stacy the pattern, and then she sent me this card back. It is a Hands Across the Sea card, and there was a very nice note in it, and then just a really quick flash, there's a pattern on the back. And so it's kind of fun, you know, to have a little pattern that I can keep in my pattern folio from my friend Stacy. I also bought some floss. I was enabled by the Thread Gremlins Flosstube a couple weeks ago to check out Pirate Robin flosses. And I don't know if it's Pirate Robin or Pirate Plus Robin. Here's the logo. And her shop is on Etsy. And I'll show you what I got. I got 4 things of floss, 2 in a very beautiful gray that is called Moonlit Graveyard. And then this beautiful pink color that is called Sweet Pea. And I got 2 of these because I have a pattern in mind for these. A long time ago, I got some designs by Jacob of Modern Folk Embroidery, and I don't remember the names of them, but they are samplers that are Japanese alphabets. And so there's a kanji one, and then there's another one. Let me see if I can get them. I wish I had been prepared. Yeah, I want to search for it. The hiragana and the katakana, that's what I have. And so let me see if I can show you a picture of the katakana, if it will load. Not the pattern, but just the sample picture. Isn't that pretty? And look, I picked the colors that are very similar to, you know, what the sample has. I think I have enough floss here that I can do both, but I'll know more when I finish one. I like the hiragana too, so they're very similar. I think I'll do the hiragana first, and then I'll do the katakana second. And so I'll see if I use more than a skein of either of these, then I'll know that I need to get more floss, or maybe choose a different colorway for the second piece. The other thing I got, which is funny because it's like almost the exact same gray, is my subscription fabric from Fibrelicious Yummy Fibres. This is called Thundercloud. It's a 40 count, and it's a 17 by 26 piece. This is going to be so useful. This is like perfect for like chalkboard style pieces, and you know, it's very like Halloween and autumn colored, so I'm sure I'm going to find something fun to do with that. So anyway, have I stalled enough? Should we do a giveaway? So last time I purchased a kit to make a Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery pattern that I particularly enjoyed. And then I had people make comments, and I wanted them to use the word parade, because my last video was all about parades and kit parades, and also because the pattern is called the Little Red Riding Hood Parade. And this is mine. I brought it out so that you could see my finish. So I finished this about 2 years ago. I put it on a board that I laced, and then I put a fabric board behind it, and then I put this red ribbon hanger. So when I have it on a wall, it hangs just like this. Isn't it cute? It's got some really pretty pom-pom trim. I just pulled this out of my fall decorations box, and so it's a little like just wibble wobbly, but you know, you gotta like kind of judge stuff before you put it out in display. So the kit that I have is this exact same kit. So the same fabric, floss, and the pattern. I have a printed copy of the pattern here. And then I also have the needle minder. And I'm very happy to announce that the winner of this giveaway is the Radioactive Stitcher. I'm going to put the little video of me drawing from the random comment picker I used there. I'm going to go ahead and tag you, and then what I'd like you to do is send me an email to sallyyoon@gmail.com with your mailing address, and then I will go ahead and mail this to you so that you can enjoy stitching. So congratulations. Now, if I don't hear from the Radioactive Stitcher before my next regular upload, which will be in about 2 weeks, so what is that date? Let's set a specific date. How about we... So if I don't hear by September 10th, then what I will do is I will draw a new name from the same pool of comments, not like a new comment pool. And, you know, hopefully we'll get that kit to the Radioactive Stitcher, but, you know, I had a lot of fun doing that. And so thank you, you know, and congratulations. Thanks for watching my video. I gotta get a little organized here. I think I have just piles and piles of stuff around me, and it's like it was very organized and now it is not. So I started this video talking a little bit about places you can stitch, and I visited several of those places here in town. So I wanted to focus on places that are open to the public and places that are also free. My town has some very beautiful, like very nice coffee shops, you know, and those are always fun places to stitch and gather with other people. You know, restaurants are fun. We also have a beautiful botanical garden that you can get in with like paying like a daily rate or a membership fee. But my town also has a lot of beautiful places that are available just to everybody, regardless. And I went to 3 of those places this week, and I made a couple little videos. I went to a place on Monday, a place on Tuesday, and a place yesterday. And here are those little videos right here. Good morning. I just dropped the kids off to school and I ran around town, but a lot of the downtown stuff doesn't actually open till 9. And so instead, I am bringing you to Dahlia Hill. Let's go check it out. So the history of Dahlia Hill is pretty simple. At the very top of it, there is an artist studio. The artist's name was Charles Breed. And at one point he decided he wanted to make a dahlia garden right here on this busy corner. Sorry about all the traffic there. And so another Midland resident donated some land, and they planted 1,700 tubers, and then every year it got a little bigger and bigger, and now it's run by a nonprofit society called the Dahlia Hill Society, and they have over, like, I want to say 3,500 plantings every year. Let's go take a closer look at them. So there are many stair paths up, and then there are some walkways along the hill, but we're not supposed to walk right on the dirt. Now we're starting to see some action. They seem to get bigger the closer to this side of the hill you get. See some pretty blooms here. There are sculptures that the artist designed representing the 4 seasons. There's one there, and there's 2 along that path, and then I'm standing right next to one too. I always have to look up which one is what. Each row is sponsored by people who will take care of the row. Aww. And at the top of the hill is the original artist studio. It is not open right now, but if you come in the afternoon, you can actually walk through. And now I'm at my first stop, Dahlia Hill, Midland, Michigan, a place you can cross stitch. let me show you my view and then I'm gonna get some stitching in. So I'm kind of hidden at the top of the hill. I can be a looky-loo. Oh, there's another bench over there. I'm gonna sit there instead. I figured for my stitching adventures, no better thing to stitch than Greetings from the National Park by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, because all these little guys are going on adventures too. We can go on adventures even in our hometown. You just have to find the places that are worth hanging out at. Well, that was relaxing. I've spent probably about an hour here, and I've gotten the border in, done a lot of just like kind of looking around. There's chipmunks, and if you're quiet enough, the chipmunks will you know, come right up to you and yell at you a little bit. So I must be in their territory. Anyway, I'm gonna move on with my day, but I highly encourage you to find a garden or a relaxing place and just sit and stitch for a little bit. It's a really nice way to start a Monday morning if you can do it. Just look at this massive willow tree. Isn't that beautiful? Time to go. It's been raining pretty steadily, so no outdoor stitching today, but instead I'm gonna go to my public library. Good morning. I'm in my car and I'm ready to do some more stitchy tourism in my town. And today I thought I would bring you to my favorite park in Midland. This is a park that is right in downtown Midland, and I've loved coming here ever since I was a girl. So let's go check it out. So first off, this is the site of what used to be our area farmers market, but we outgrew the farmers market, and also seasonally this was something that didn't work out because of this river right here. So there are actually two rivers here. There is the Chippewa River over on this side, and then the Tittabawassee River over here. And the name of this park is Chippewassee Park. And right at the fork is this very, very cool bridge. And we actually don't call it a bridge, we call it a tridge, because it has 3 spans that meet in the middle. There's a kayak launch over there. And then over here, there used to be a railroad, and now this is a bike trail. And this bike trail actually goes, I think, over 100 miles to Ludington, Michigan. During the spring, when it's rainy, this whole area over here can get flooded all the way up, so that everything's being covered. Sure is peaceful today though. The water doesn't even look like it's moving. Here's the center of the tridge, and at the, I guess you'd call it, terminus of each of the branches of the bridge, there's a park. So over here we have Chippewassee Park, which has a lot of really fun things to do. When I was a kid, they used to do the 4th of July fireworks here. And then here's the farmers market area. And then over here is another park that has a disc golf course and some softball and other stuff. I forget the name of that park. I think it's called Whiting Overlook Park. Look, there's a sign that tells us exactly where we are. So I did not bring a towel, and these benches are very wet. So remember how yesterday I went to the library and because the weather was inclement? Well, later that night we actually had a thunderstorm that was strong enough it produced a tornado that went through our town. Luckily, as far as I've heard, just like tree and power line damage. I know my sister doesn't have internet right now, but you know, we were okay. I took the kids down to the basement. It's pretty scary, but it is making it so that I cannot stitch here today because I didn't bring a towel. So let's see if I can find another bench that's maybe a little drier. It's the 0 marker for the rail trail. I'm gonna go check that bench out over there. I found a bench that was a little drier, and I've got my view right here. I'm sitting under a beautiful tree, and now I'm going to stitch. Hey, kayakers, that's cool. This is what I'm working on. I'm hoping to get this coffee pot done today. So that library is definitely the one that I spent the least amount of time at. And actually I was going to go to the Tridge that day and then go to the library on a different day. But the rain really changed my plans. I think that even though that was the shortest, video, that is probably the place I go more than any other place, especially in the winter, because you don't have to worry about the weather when you're at the library. There are a lot of awesome places to hang out and stitch. And one of my favorite things about doing it is if you feel like you just want some quiet time, you can find a quiet corner and you can just be on your own, kind of like I did in the video. But if you want to be more social, you can find places that you're just more conspicuous, and you will be surprised. People will come up and they'll be like, "What you doing? Wow, is that hard?" And that's how you start those conversations. And then sometimes that's how you meet new friends. And so I urge you to kind of just explore ways you can go out and about and be part of a community, and that really satisfied a need for me to just hit the town, get out of my house. And I really enjoyed it this week. So I urge you to try it. I'm going to change gears now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about, some of the other crafts I've worked on. Now, this was a very busy time with the kids getting back to school, and so I just didn't really get a lot of crafty stuff in, and honestly, I spent a lot of time on markup, and so there's that too. But I did work on a little bit of knitting and crochet, and then I've got some sewing updates too. So let's start with knitting and crochet. First off, I've been working on my Heirloom Quilt Cardigan, and I'm very excited because I only have 1 square left to knit. So I've got my 24 squares here. I've got some squares that are blocking. I have a square that is just fresh off the needles and it's all wrinkly. And then I have my last square, and I've decided I am going to make it with a light orange background and then the dark orange star. And I think that there's enough contrast between the two. So I'm gonna knit that today, and then we get to start putting our cardigan together. So this is how I'm thinking it's gonna work. First thing I'm gonna wanna do is I'm gonna wanna lay things out so I get the color placement. For these 27 squares, you lay out, and maybe I'll show you a picture, but you lay out 2 panels for the front because it's a cardigan. And so you'll have like 2 squares by 3 squares, 2 squares by 3 squares, and then the back is 15 squares, and so it's 3 squares down and 5 wide. And this whole thing is supposed to be kind of a boxy, short-waisted cardigan, and I am a boxy, short-waisted lady, and so I'm hoping it'll fit really nicely. But the nice thing about this is it's also modular, and so what I'm going to do is I have a bunch of quilting basting pins that are safety pins. I'm going to use safety pins, and I'm going to start safety pinning panels together, like maybe one in the middle and then one on each corner, just so I get a sense of how big the finished fabric is. And then once I have that, I'm going to try it on. I see a lot of people trying things on in the middle of their knitting because knitting is so customizable. If I find out that this is too short, I've got plenty of yarn, and I could do another row of blocks for the bottom to give myself some length. I could also knit an edging on the bottom that is very deep if I want to go that way. We'll just have to see how it fits. I have to decide what kinds of sleeves I want. The pattern calls for some balloon style sleeves, so very wide sleeves that kind of like go into a cuff very quickly. but I like 3/4 length sleeves for a lot of my things. I just find it easy. I can like, you know, get into cooking and stuff without, you know, worrying about dragging my sleeve through a bunch of, you know, food mess. And so I won't know until I try it on, but I'm very excited. I'm close to the trying it on phase, so it's exciting. I am stitching these on, what size needle? I'm using 2 strands of yarn held together. The yarn is a fingering weight by Hedgehog Fibres. It's a mix of sock yarn, which has a little bit of twist, and then something called a singles yarn, which is like this. And what this is instead of being plied, it's like a single ply. And single ply yarn is weird because it's not as stable as a plied yarn. Like it's not as sturdy or strong. Like if I want to rip it, it's actually very easy to pull apart compared to, you know, a 2-ply or 3-ply yarn. But I don't think that's an issue for a sweater I'm wearing. It might get a little pilly, but I know how to fix that. And so that'll be, you know, something that I'll just get to when I get there. I'm using this set of interchangeable circular needles. And so when I get to the body of my sweater, if I need a longer cord, I can get one because these just screw in and then you get them. These are Hygge points, and I really like them because they're very sharp. And if you're very curious, you want to get technical, I'm using a size 7 needle, so 4.5 millimeters. So that's my knitting progress. I've taken my crochet with me to some of my son's occupational therapy appointments. This is my crochet progress. Now, if you remember, I was making the Wild Rose Market bag by Stephanie Lau, All About Ami on Instagram. And I've made this bag before. And so this is what the bag looks like when it's completed. And it's made out of 13 blocks that are sewn together. And then you pick up stitches and you crochet the handles on each side, just kind of an endless circle. I am using a yarn by Lion brand that is cotton. It's called 24/7 cotton. I guess algodón is Spanish for cotton, but it's a Lion brand 24/7. I'm using my crochet hook that is 3.75 millimeters. That's an F size. And these are the squares I have. And I have 1, 2, 3, I have 7. So I only need 6 more. I timed myself on this, and it takes me about 25 minutes to do a square. And so I think I'm going to do this as a focus for the next couple evenings. 25 minutes is a really good, like, hey, I need a little break just to kind of think time period for me. Especially like after just all of the rush of like picking kids up from school and homework help and, you know, dinner and baths and house cleaning and stuff. And sometimes just kind of toward the end of the evening, I need like 25 minutes to just kind of like drain my brain. And so that's probably what I'll use this for. And this is also an excellent project to take with me to those occupational therapy appointments. So that's been my yarn craft stuff. My cat just came and laid on all of my stuff that I've thrown on the floor. So that was what that crinkle crinkle was. But the other thing that I had going on was a bunch of sewing stuff. And I'll admit it, I have not done any sewing in the last 2 weeks. But I did do some basting, which is cool because that was kind of my big hang up for this quilt project I was working on. And basting is cool because it means my quilt is now portable. So I'll see if I can lean back as far as I can. This is my Atomic Starburst quilt. The pattern is by Violet Craft. And I have basted it. And by basting it, what that means is that I have sandwiched the back, which is this Ruby Star Society starry print. And then there is a batting layer, and then the quilt top, which is a bunch of different prints designed by Sarah Watts for her line Florida. Look, this one's my favorite. It's upside down, but there is a crocodile on that one. Isn't that cool? So I'll try to put a photograph of what the whole quilt looks like because I know I'm like got a big handful here. But now that it is basted, it is portable. I can roll it up like a burrito and I can run it through my machine and I can start putting quilting stitches in. This was a big hang up because when you baste things, I find it very difficult to get everything very flat so that there isn't a bunch of bunched up fabric that gets caught in your stitching. I did something a little different this time, and that is I basted it in kind of a 2-part process. So I laid down the batting first, and then I took the backing fabric, which was one long piece because I got like a wide back piece, and so I didn't have to piece 2 shorter pieces together to make the whole quilt back. And I ended up using like a spray adhesive that I'd gotten from like Dritz brand. And I sprayed it in little sections and then smoothed out the back. So the back was adhered to the batting. Then I flipped the whole thing over, and then I used safety pins to pin the quilt top to this very smooth back. And I got a really good result. And so I think that that is going to help me like for all my future projects. And that makes me happy because basting is my least favorite part of quilting. And that is where like I will start a quilt and then I'll have a quilt top just kind of hanging out, and then I'll never finish the quilt. And so I'm hoping that I can improve my productivity with that. So the other thing that I really want to work on is these little squares that I showed you last time. I was just kind of making these as a little scrap buster project. These are little squares with a pattern called Teeny Stars by Happy So Lucky. And I'm using some these were like fat 1/8 leftover cuts, and a lot of these cuts I only maybe had like a little 8x8 square left. And so what I'm doing is from that 8x8 square, I have enough fabric to make a star, and then one of these, and then if I have anything left over, I'm just cutting it up into like my pre-cut sizes that I do for whenever I do you know, project stuff. So I've got about these, I think I'm gonna make about 20, so I'll have 40, and then I think I'm gonna make either a banner or a project bag out of these squares. So that's what I got. I've made a big mess here. I really have enjoyed getting into my new routine. So as I mentioned at the beginning, my kids have started school. My daughter is in high school this year, and so she leaves the morning like kind of, you know, about 7:15. My husband can take her to school on the way to work. And then my son just started middle school, and there was just a lot of uncertainty surrounding this transition from elementary school to middle school. So my son is in like a largely self-contained like special education program. And so what that means is that when he was in elementary school, he had the same teacher the whole time. And we also went through like a COVID shutdown at that time. And so he's very attached to this teacher, and she's a wonderful teacher. And I'm happy I can like call her my friend now that we don't have like a professional relationship anymore. But the transition to middle school, I was really worried was going to be difficult. And also we had some uncertainty about which program was right for him. So my local school district has 2 different support programs. There's a support program specifically for children with my son's diagnosis, autism spectrum disorder. And so all of these children can be in the same class. And then what they can do is they can move into general education environments as, you know, the least restrictive way possible. So if they, you know, can do well in a general education math class, then they go do gen ed math. And then maybe they come back to, you know, the ASD classroom for other kinds of support. And I think that's really cool because some of these students get generalized. Eventually they don't need special education support, you know, and they can just like, you know, run through public school just like most children get to run through public school. But I've known for many years that that is not going to be the case for my son. He needs a lot of additional supports. He's nonverbal. I don't know that he's really literate. And we've worked a lot in public education in concentrating more on building self-care and social skills than worrying about like reading and math and things like that. Now, the price of that is that he will probably not graduate with like, he won't fulfill high school graduation requirements. So he won't graduate with a diploma. He'll get something that's called a certificate of completion, and then we'll work from there. You know, depending on, you know, the state of his disability, you know, maybe he can get a GED as an adult. There's really no deadline. There's no top deadline. We can always continue to work on building skills. So anyway, I digress a little bit. So there's that ASD program. And then there's also another program that they call a MOSI program. And MOSI stands for moderate cognitive impairment. And so some of these students have like maybe physical mobility needs that keep them out of the general education classroom. Like maybe they have a feeding tube or they need respiratory, support. And many of these students have like CNAs that are assigned to them so that they can attend school, because what we're looking at in public school is like the least restrictive environment. Let's try to make it as close to a normal public school experience as we can by providing supports. So I was given the opportunity to put my son in the MOSI classroom. And the reason we did that is because of space limitations. There are a lot more autistic children in the ASD classroom than there are in the MOSI classroom. And also there is a lot more space for him to move, space for him to jump and to swing and to play. And I ended up opting to do that. And I'm really happy that we have done that because he's had a wonderful beginning of the year. He's working with the same curriculum regardless of what class he has. And so even though he technically is not moderately cognitively impaired, it's like this is one of those cases where you ignore the label instead of leaning into the label. And I think that's been good for us. It's been good for us to challenge what he can do. This is a very long way of saying that. I thought he was going to go to school A, and then he ended up going to school B. And so at the very last minute, we had to teach him like a new classroom and, just kind of get used to it. And it took about a week, but my son's new teacher is awesome. She's really great, and I'm so appreciative. He's had wonderful support. He's coming home from school happy every day. We've been hitting like our private speech and OT appointments, and he's just been rocking them. And this is my favorite time of year because he hits the ground running, and we see like this big growth that happens in a very short time right after summer ends, and it can be very exciting. And it's one of those things where like day to day you don't notice the changes, but then if you look back to like what was he doing a year ago or what was he doing 2 years ago, and you realize he's doing amazing things. And I'm so lucky I get to be the witness to that. So I've enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed having a routine that gives me some more time for myself and time for me to connect with other people. I've had some wonderful conversations with one of my best friends. We talk on the phone or we can meet and have coffee or whatever. My sister had a birthday this week, and we all went to dinner, and it was really nice. We went, she and my mom and my daughter Katie and me, we all went to a fancy restaurant, and it was like a really fun girls' night. And we were there for like 3 hours, and it was really great. And it was fun to shop for a birthday present. And, it's just really been a time of great joy, just as we kind of stretch into our new routine. I tried some new recipes, and my family liked them. And so now I've got some new go-tos. I'm able to cook. For a long time, we had like these rehabilitation appointments for my son kind of butting up right at meal prep time. And it took me a while, but I figured it out. I can cook. I don't have to like rely on frozen meals and fast food and like crock pot. I don't like crock pot food. I feel like it's wet. I don't like the texture. So yeah, I'm just really happy that I am able to kind of lean and kind of, I guess instead of leaning in, I'm stretching out in a lot of different directions at once, and it feels great. And I hope that everyone else who is doing a back to school is having a really good time too. So anyway, this was, kind of a fun update for me. I, have my fingers in a lot of different pots. I just am really happy that I could make this post today. And I'm struggling to end this video because I don't know what to say. Anyway, if you stuck with me this long, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everyone's comments. I try to respond to everyone. This last video, I did not do a lot of responses because I did not want to mess up the raffle because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to sort out. But if you leave me a comment, I'm going to try to say something back to you because I just really appreciate that you take the time to spend time with me. You can reach me here. You can find me on my Instagram account. You can find me in my email. All that information is below. I like to post little day-by-day stuff on my Instagram. So if you're into like vintage glass collecting, that's what I've been into a lot lately. And so you'll see what I've been up to with that. If you are the radioactive stitcher, congratulations once again. Please reach out to me via email. Here's my email account right here. And I really appreciate everyone's attention. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.